Hello friends, so today we are going to see the plane diffraction grating and as well as diffraction due to transmission grating. So let us consider what is diffraction grating. See, diffraction grating is an arrangement consisting of large number of equidistant parallel slits of same width. That means if we consider this is a glass plate, and on that glass plate large numbers of equidistant parallel slits grooves are made, and that grooves creates a transparent portion and opaque portion alternately, and this kind of arrangement it is called as the grating. So when we take a plain glass surface, that is a transmitting material, and we make this kind of arrangements by making grooves on the surface of that plain glass surface. So between two grooves there it is a transparent portion which can transmit light from one side to another side, and that is why that kind of grating is called as a transmission grating. Whereas if we consider or if we take a reflecting surface and if we make such kind of arrangement on reflecting surface, then after making the grooves we get opaque portion, and between two opaque portion we get a reflecting surface. So that kind of grating element is called as a reflection grating. So these are two types of gratings. Now let us consider grating element. See, the distance between any two consecutive slits is called as a grating element. So we can understand. So let us consider this is a plane surface, and suppose here there it is a slit or slits. So between two slits, in case of transmission grating, so here it is a slit at the center, and on both sides the portion is opaque portion. So distance between any two consecutive slits is called as a grating element of the grating. Now to understand diffraction due to transmission grating, we are considering a grating element. So as shown in figure, see here it is. So here it is a slit which we observe, through which light can pass if it is a transmission grating. Similarly there it is another slit. So here number of slits are there, say S1, S2, S3, n number of slits are there, and now here there it is a portion of a slit, and this is another portion. So here n we are going to consider, that is capital N stands for number of slits which we are going to consider. A is the width of slit. So here this is a slit width, and that is A, and B is the distance of separation between successive slits. So suppose this is one slit, this is another slit, so distance between separation of two slits, that we are going to consider B. So obviously grating element which we are considering, it is that the slit width as well as the distance of separation, that is E is equal to A plus B. So that is we are considering the grating element. So first we have got E is equal to A plus B. Now let us consider from this side a plane wave front is incidenting on the grating. So obviously as this is a plane wave front, it will travel in this direction, and once it travels we can understand that through slits some of the rays will directly incident on the surface of the lens, where after passing through lens, after refracting, it will be focused at a particular point where they will form a maxima. So let us consider this is a point when rays pass straight. But as this is a grating element and slits are there. So here when rays pass through slit, due to the secondary disturbances, they travel in another direction with making an angle theta. So here it is shown that this ray is passing straight and incident on the screen, but whereas this ray is making an angle theta. So that we have to consider. So these are the rays which are making an angle theta, as we have already seen in case of single slit. So that theta angle is made, and all those rays then after refraction, they incident at point B on the screen, where they form a bright spot or dark spot that will depend on the path difference as well as phase difference. So when plane wavefront is incident on grating, the wavefront parts in the region of open slit only will be able to produce disturbance due to secondary waves from them on the screen. So the rays which are passing through the slits, they will able to produce the disturbance. Now we saw already that diffraction at single slit. So in that case, in which net disturbance produced in the direction of theta is given, and that we already saw, that is dy. So remember that net disturbance actually from center it is shifted to one side, and that shifting is given by dy is equal to a0 sine alpha upon alpha into sine 2 pi t upon capital T minus r upon lambda. So here this is the amplitude, and here it is a phase angle. So that this thing we already saw, where t is period, alpha is pi a sine theta upon lambda, which we already saw. Lambda is wavelength of light, and r is the distance of point on the screen from the center of the slit. Now let us consider, say this is slit S1. When light pass through slit S1, it produces disturbance, and now we are going to consider the disturbance at B due to slit S1, the light rays which are passing through slit S1 in the direction of theta will be, here it is due to slit S1 that we are going to consider, that is dy1, that is equal to a0 sine alpha upon alpha, this is amplitude, and into sine of 2 pi t upon capital T minus r upon lambda. This is expression 4.59. Now let us consider second slit S2. So this S2, as the light is passing through S2 also, the light rays will also produce the disturbance due to S2. So the second slit, that S2, disturbance S2 will be produced, and that disturbance will be d by 2 at point B. So now at this point, disturbance is due to all slits S1, S2, S3, or total number of slits capital N. So that disturbance will that we are going to consider. So here dy1 is due to slit S1, dy2 due to S2, and so on. So now second slit S2 will produce dy2. Now in this case the amplitude will remain same, but as we know that the ray passing through slit S1 and ray passing through slit S2, which are creating the disturbances, they have path difference, which we already saw. This is a delta, which is a path difference. So amplitude will be same, but there will be a phase difference due to path difference, and that will be a cause of disturbance. Now it has same amplitude but different path phase difference due to path difference. So obviously path difference, here we can see that this is S1, and here there it is a K1. So this is a path difference. So S1 K1 is equal to AB sin theta that we already saw, but we know that A plus B is nothing but grating element E. So S1 K1 is equal to E sin theta, and now path difference is E sin theta, and that is added into earlier equation. So dy2 is equal to, as amplitude is as it is, A0 sin alpha upon alpha, sine of, this is a phase angle, plus this path difference, that is E sin theta upon lambda. So dy2 is given by expression 4.60. Now same can be found for dy3, dy4 up to dyn. So continuing the same way, we get the net disturbance due to nth slit will be dyn A0 sin alpha upon alpha, amplitude as it is, but there will be a phase difference, that is 2 pi into t upon capital T minus r upon lambda, plus n minus 1 times E sin theta upon lambda, that is expression 4.61. So obviously net disturbance due to all slits and all elements, that is total disturbance at B in the direction of theta due to all slits, will be obviously summation of all the disturbances, that is dy1 plus dy2 plus dy3 up to dyn. So then y is equal to A0 sin alpha upon alpha, summation of m is going from 0 to n minus 1, that is sine of 2 pi into t upon capital T minus r upon lambda into m e sin theta upon lambda, that is expression 4.62. Now using general trigonometric formula, here it is for summation, that is summation of p is going from m is equal to 0 to p, sine of x plus md is equal to sine of x plus delta p upon 2 into sine of p plus 1 upon 2 into delta, divided by sine of delta by 2. Now here it is, the equation 4.62 can be written as, using this formula, that is y is equal to A0 sine of alpha upon alpha into sine of 2 pi upon into t upon capital T minus r upon lambda, plus n minus 1 into E sin theta upon 2 lambda into this term sine of n beta upon sine of beta, where we know that beta is the term, that is pi E sin theta upon lambda, and which depends on the value of theta. That is important. So obviously then resultant disturbance has the amplitude. So here in this case we see this is an amplitude as well as this is an amplitude, but when we talk about the amplitude of resultant, we see that the amplitude part is A0 sine of alpha upon alpha as well as sine of n beta upon sine of beta. So this is the resultant amplitude of the disturbance. So from amplitude we can find out the intensity, and that intensity at B in the direction of angle theta is given by I is equal to I0 sine of alpha upon alpha bracket square into sine square n beta upon sine square beta. Here I0 is basically A0 square, that is the intensity, we know that is equal to amplitude square. So here in equation 4.64, this part, that is a sine of alpha upon alpha square, represents the diffraction pattern. So this is amplitude due to diffraction pattern in a single slit that we already saw, while the another term, which is sine of n beta upon sine beta, here it represents in case of intensity, it represents the interference due to n number of slits. But here we see that as theta is changed, so we know that is the value of beta is equal to pi e sine of theta upon lambda. So therefore, as theta is changed, the numerator of the interference term, so here it is, we saw this is the interference term, and here it is theta is changed, the interference numerator term of interference varies rapidly, as interference term is sine square n beta, and we know that beta depends on the value of theta. So as theta changes, these terms varies rapidly as compared to the diffraction term, and hence maxima minima can be obtained. And by considering the maxima minima of this term, now we are going to see principal maxima. Now for principal maxima, remember that the intensity term due to interference that we already saw, now it will be maximum only if sine of beta is equal to 0. So here the intensity term which we saw, that is sine square of n beta upon sine square beta, and if that denominator is 0, the intensity will be maximum, and the denominator can be 0, sine beta can have value 0, only it is possible at the values of beta is equal to plus minus n pi, where n is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So now under this condition, the intensity will be given by, so maximum intensity will be there. It is possible when denominator of interference term is 0. So that is why I max is equal to I0 sine of alpha upon alpha bracket square into, as limit beta tends to plus minus n pi, sine of n beta upon sine beta square. So from this, after solving the differentiation, we get I0 sine of alpha square, alpha upon alpha square, as limit beta tends to n pi, that is d dB of sine of n beta upon d dB of sine of beta. So after differentiation, we get I0 sine of alpha upon alpha bracket square, as limit beta tends to plus minus n pi, we get n cos of n beta upon cos of beta bracket square. So here that is equal to I0 sine of alpha upon alpha bracket square into term n square into cos square into capital N into n pi divided by cos square n pi, and from this term we get I max is equal to I0 sine of alpha upon alpha bracket square into n square. So here it is clear that from equation 4.65, the intensity of principal maxima is proportional to n square, where n is number of slits. So these maxima are obtained in the direction given by beta is equal to plus minus n pi, and as we know that beta is equal to pi e raised to sine theta upon lambda. If we equate these things, that means beta is equal to n pi, means pi e upon sine theta upon lambda into sine theta upon lambda is equal to n pi. We get the condition e sine theta is equal to n lambda, and this is basically the condition for maxima. And now from this, here it is a maxima, and these maxima will be on both sides of zero order maxima arranged symmetrically, and the intensity of these maxima will decrease with n as sine alpha upon alpha decreases for higher theta required for higher n. And now this equation 4.66 also called as a grating equation. So now let us consider the minima and secondary maxima due to interference term. So we know that interference term is actually sine of n beta upon sine beta. So here the minima or secondary maxima can be obtained by equating the first derivative of interference term to 0. See, remember, minima means this term must be 0. So if it is equated to 0, so we get the term 2 sine of n beta upon sine beta into n cos of n beta upon sine beta minus 1 upon sine square beta into cos of beta into sine of n beta is equal to 0. So this means that sine of n beta upon sine beta, that must be equal to 0, or this second term, that is n cos of n beta upon sine beta minus 1 upon sine square beta into cos of beta sine of n beta, that must be 0. Either this or this term must be 0. So from this we get, that is n cot of if you consider n cos of n beta upon sine beta, that is cos upon sine turns to be cot beta, cot of n beta. So from this equation we get n cot of n beta is equal to cot of beta, that is equation 4.66. So under this condition we get sine of n beta upon sine beta is equal to 0. So this is a condition, and under this condition we can get the minima. Now here we get minima and intensity being 0. Now the condition being satisfied if sine of n beta is equal to 0, but the most important thing is that we should not consider that this condition is not valid, that is sine of beta must not be equal to 0. So this is a condition, because of we already saw when sine beta is equal to 0, this term sine beta is equal to 0, we get a principal maxima, and now we are talking about the minima. So these are satisfied when beta assumes the value. Now beta cannot have any value, because of we know that if we consider sine of beta is equal to 0, then that is a condition for principal maxima. So here beta is equal to plus minus p pi upon n with p integers excluding the values 0, n, 2n, 3n. So now for getting minima we should exclude this value, and for remaining values we get the condition satisfied and we get minima. So because of these values of p, we know that as beta is equal to 0 plus minus pi plus minus 2 pi, this gives principal maxima. So therefore denominator sine beta also vanishes, and this corresponding the positions of principal maxima. So obviously thus for minima n beta is equal to plus minus p pi, but p must not be equal to n into capital N. So this is a condition for minima. Now from this we can say that if n beta is equal to plus minus p pi, so we know that the value of beta, so putting that n into beta is equal to plus minus p pi, so we get E sine of theta is equal to plus minus p upon capital N into lambda. But important thing is that p is not equal to n times n, where n is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3. So now for minima we have E sine theta is equal to plus minus lambda by n, comma 2 lambda by n plus minus n minus 1 upon n lambda and 2n lambda. Remember that here we are considering most important thing, that p is not equal to n times n, that are excluded. Now we are talking about principal maxima. So let us consider principal maxima. See, here it is when we talk about interference pattern. So here we get a principal maxima. This is principal maxima. This is another principal maxima. Now here, when we talk about diffraction pattern, now here we get this is a secondary maxima. So these are secondary maxima and these are secondary minima. So here you see that it depends on how many slits are there, the number of maximas and minimas are decided. So here in this case, here we see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 minimas are there, whereas 4 maximas, secondary maximas are there. So that is what the relation. Now we are talking about principal maxima. So condition is E sine of theta is equal to n lambda, that is equal to 0 plus minus lambda plus minus 2 lambda plus minus 3 lambda, etc. So therefore E sine theta is equal to 0 plus minus capital N lambda upon n plus minus 2n lambda upon n plus minus 3n lambda upon n. So we observe that between any two successive principal maxima, there are n minus 1 minimas. So this is principal maxima, this is principal maxima. Between these two principal maxima, there are n minus 1 minima. So here it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we are considering capital N is equal to 6, if 6 slits are there, then we get n minus 1 minima. And under the condition n cot of n beta is equal to quad beta, intensity is 0 and we get secondary maxima. So under this condition we are getting secondary maxima. So the condition for secondary maxima can also be written as n tan of beta is equal to tan of n beta. That is equation 4.72. So between two consecutive principal maxima, there must be n minus 2 other maximas points known as secondary maxima. As we just saw here, between two principal maxima, see capital N is equal to 6, number of slits are 6. So when we talk about minima, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 minimas are there and secondary maximas are 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is n minus 2 maximas are there, secondary maximas are there. The intensity of secondary maxima is negligible as compared to principal maxima for a large value of n. So as the number of slits increases, that means if it is a large value, then the intensity of secondary maxima will reduce significantly and will turn to be, it will disappear. So the intensity counter for grating element containing 6 slits is shown here. So here it is a grating element, that is we know that grating element E is equal to A plus B. Here we know that beta is equal to pi E sine of theta upon lambda and capital N is number of slits. So the scale for beta is same in two cases. Similarly, the function sine square n beta upon sine square beta is plotted by taking quotient of the coordinates at each point is in figure. So here we see the graph. So the graph shows that intensity distribution at various points graphically. So now here it is, these are three graphs in which first, here it is graph below shows the graph of sine square n beta against n beta. Then another graph which shows that is sine square beta against beta, and here the interference counter is shown in this. So it will be seen that the quotient at points B, that is beta, is equal to 0, pi, plus minus pi, 2 pi, etc. That is 0 upon 0 is indeterminate, but its limit for these values of beta as seen earlier is n square, and we know that in case of this we are considering number of slits is equal to n. So which is 36. Thus principal maxima occurs at the value of beta is equal to 0 plus minus pi plus minus 2 pi, and the value of function sine square beta upon sine square n beta upon sine square beta at these points is n square. Obviously the intensity at these maxima is further modulated by single slit diffraction, that is by the term a0 square sine square alpha upon alpha square. So as the diffraction pattern and interference pattern overlaps, so here now the quotient at points, see beta is equal to 0 plus minus pi plus minus 2 pi etc. is 0 upon 0 and is indeterminate, but its limit for these values of beta that we know, that is n square. Thus principal maxima occurs at point beta is equal to 0 plus minus pi plus minus 2 pi as shown in graph, and values of the function is sine square n times beta upon sine of beta at these points is n square. So at these points we get the value n square. Now the intensity as these maxima is further modulated by a single slit diffraction term. So see here it is, the intensity is modified by single slit diffraction term, and that is the term a0 square sine square alpha upon alpha square, and further it is modulated. So now multiplying this factor by the intensity term, so it will seem that intensity at central maxima, that is n is equal to 0, is now greatest, and intensity of high order principal maxima, that is n is equal to 1, 2, 3, it is progressively diminishing. Now here you can see, actually we already saw in case of single slit diffraction we get this kind of pattern. Now when we talk about multi-slit diffraction, we get this kind of pattern, where depending on the number of slits n, we get principal maximas. It depends on the number of slits, as well as we get secondary minima and secondary maxima, that is minimas and secondary maximas that we get, and we get this kind of graph. But now when we talk about a single slit diffraction pattern, so when we multiply this term, that means single slit diffraction term, that is a0 square sine square alpha upon alpha, modulate this intensity, and finally we get the intensity at maxima. After modulating with this term, we get a final intensity pattern on the screen like this. So this way, here in case of multi-slit diffraction or n-slit diffraction, we get this kind of pattern, in which there it is only one principal maxima is there, and further due to single slit diffraction we get this kind of pattern. So okay, thank you very much.